Hey everyone, I'm Chrissy Regan and I'm joined today by the wonderful Helen Williams. Hi Helen, how are you?
Hello, Chrissy. How are you?
Very, very good. So you're in Queensland, but you're in the south of Queensland and I'm in the north of Queensland. So we're catching up on Zoom today to talk about financial health, which you're an expert in, and I wish I was an expert in. So I do recognize that financial health is an important pillar for our overall health and well-being. And in fact, you wrote a book about it. So you and I met in Melbourne in February 2020. So we've been friends for almost 2 years. Did you know that?
Yes, I did. Yes.
And this is your book, which came out recently. So congratulations on that. It's called Retirement Ready by Helen Williams. What they don't teach you that you need to know. And it's also an Amazon bestseller. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very, very proud of my book. That was something that I did during COVID lockdown. So I've a big achievement for myself. I loved it.
It's
Yes.
a wonderful achievement, and it's also a legacy for you, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. I hope it is. Yes, for not just for myself, but for everybody. Yes.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm just going to read a little bit about the back of your book. Is your bank account and savings something you would rather not think about? Have you struggled understanding money and financials and feel your lack of knowledge is causing you stress and anxiety? Do you know if you have enough money for retirement? You need to get retirement ready. Knowledge is power. You need a clear understanding of your current financial position. It will be this basic financial understanding that will help you achieve your financial goals. It's time to check your wealth health by putting into action some tips and strategies outlined in this must-read book by personal assistant of 47 years and former wealth advisor Helen Williams. And you go on to talk about, how our financial health really is a big part of our overall well-being, which is something I'm quite passionate about, trying to be more diligent with my own finances, because as you know, I manage large budgets for clients around the world, but I find doing my own finances a bit boring and tedious. I'd rather be doing more fun stuff in my free time.
Yes. So
I guess you meet a lot of people like that, right?
oh, absolutely. I did a presentation yesterday about talking about financial health, and people said to me, "Oh, look, I find it all boring." And I said, "Well, I myself, I love it. I'm a numbers person. Where I previously worked, people used to call me Rain Man because I had this innate ability to remember postcodes and figures and things like that. So to me, I love just getting a piece of paper and a pen, and I'll sit down and I'll put this figure with that one, I'll take that one away from that, and then I might put that aside, and then I work out how much this bit is. And so I kind of play around with the figures, and so I find it interesting. And I must admit, I've always loved seeing those zeros grow when I've gone to the bank every week to get my money out when I was much younger. So I don't mind it. I quite enjoy looking after doing that sort of thing. So yeah, I love it.
Did you enjoy maths at school, or was that something that came to you later?
Absolutely terrible maths at school. I even had special classes in Form 4. I'd have to go first thing in the morning and do maths, but that was about, algorithms and pie charts and that sort of thing. It wasn't about being financially literate and knowing about ins and outs and debits and credits and more financial literacy things, as opposed to, and the tables were drummed into me. So I know my table. So that more those kind of figures, and sitting there and worrying about Pythagoras' theorem and things like that. So and it's probably only later in life that I put maths in that aspect rather than that sort of theoretical kind of thing, more basic practical maths. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's really cool. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and we're going to chat a bit more about this as we go along. But tell me, for you personally, what does financial health mean to you?
For me, personally, in my situation as it stands now, being financially healthy means to me that I don't have to worry where my next dollar is coming from. Excuse me. I've sort of saved all my life. I've budgeted all my life. I've made sacrifices. So, and I do have, because of my goal many years ago, which was to be a millionaire and have $1 million in superannuation, that I have a very good savings account. I have excellent superannuation to look back on now that I'm sort of semi-retired. So I don't really worry where my next dollar's coming from because I know I'm financially sound. If something happened to me, with I talk about money and dying, two subjects that people hate talking about. But if I was to pass, I've got enough money for my funeral. I'm kind of a very organised person. I've got my plot of land. It's all very morbid speaking about it, but I don't have to worry about going out and eating out or buying an expensive dress or whatever. That's not to say that I'm going to go out and spend all my money and buy a Lamborghini or anything. No way. But I feel very comfortable and within myself that I don't have to necessarily worry about where my next dollar's coming from.
And would you mind sharing your age, Helen?
I just turned 65 in December.
Okay, so 65 and 47 years ago, basically, you decided you wanted to be a millionaire there or thereabouts, or how long ago was it?
No, I've been working for about 47 plus years as a PAEA, and then I got my financial planning qualifications back about 2013. So it was then that I kind of realised that I wanted to do something about my own financial situation. So I studied, but I think I was about 29 when I had been very sick with a serious medical condition. I got divorced and I realised that I was by myself, and I thought, well, couldn't have children because of my medical condition. So I realised that no one was going to look after me. So sat down, thought about it, and wrote down the goal that I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 65 and have that money in my super.
So you wrote that goal at 29?
Yes, yes.
And when you think about it then, so you only really studied this formally 10 years ago, a decade ago.
That's right, yes.
And a decade ago, were you close to your million or still working your way towards it?
Oh, no, I achieved it last year.
Okay, so, cool. Yeah. So that's really cool as well. I think often we have very productive periods of our life and we have less productive periods of our life. And there's an expression which I heard, which is our reproductive years are also our most productive years. But when you're being reproductive, i.e. becoming a mum, taking chunks of maternity leave, often your financial situation kind of goes backwards or you go sideways before you can go forward. So we often, as women particularly, we have periods of less earning potential and then we have periods of more earning potential. And before I became a mum, I had a healthy savings account and I had nice holidays and all those sorts of things. And since I've become a mum, obviously 5 years of in the space of 5 years, 2 babies, 2 lots of maternity leave, relocating my family from the UK to Australia, and then COVID, all the challenges financially around COVID. So I've had 5 years of limited earning potential.
Yep.
And that is it's a setback. And it's a setback at an age when you're not necessarily wanting to have a setback. I'm 46 now. I'll be 47 this year. And I should be thinking a lot about my super and my retirement. But I'm actually just going through the motions, existing and hustling at the moment. So I'm at that phase again. Do you know what I mean? Like I had that very productive time. I've had this unproductive time and now I'm trying to rebuild again. I'm guessing you see that cyclical nature within a lot of people that you meet.
Yes. It's a common problem. Women are penalised, for want of a better word, that they don't have enough superannuation when they get to retirement age because of career breaks, having children, inequality with wages, with males tend to get paid more. So there's a lot of reasons why that happens. So I see it a lot. Like I say, I couldn't have children, but then again, I made a lot of sacrifices along the way. And I was always very diligent with putting my money aside. I budgeted my whole life, even now, still 65, I'm still budgeting every week what's what. And look, it will happen and everybody's situation is going to be different. And that's life. COVID doesn't help, admittedly. Thankfully, there were some government initiatives in the earlier stage which helped women and families, I'm sure. And that helped me for a little bit there. I got a few little bit of extra money because I lost earnings with a bit of business. But It's not an easy time, and I must admit, it's because I'm not an expert. I can't give any personal advice. I don't have a license to practice or anything, so it's just my own experiences and what I've gone through with my life with being sick.
Yeah.
I was sick for quite a while until I had my renal transplant. So, there were times when I thought, oh, am I still going to be able to go to work and have money and do things? So look, I personally still think to stick at going with your financial situation as you go into having maternity leave, because you will, going backwards is not really a good idea. Sideways, even in my own career, I went sideways and it never really stopped things, but backwards is not hard, but it's going to happen. It's part of life.
Yeah.
So you just need to try and mitigate your risks. I'm all about mitigating risks. Even now at 65, I'm always about thinking about things, putting some plans into action. It's probably not a bad idea if you're sitting down talking with your spouse or your partner that you're thinking of having a family. Maybe if you could put a little bit of money aside every week until you do have the family, the child, and that can maybe be an emergency buffer against some big expenses that might come up that you're not aware of. For some women that are maybe coming out of domestic violence, this is only through things that I've read and researched. There are things out there that can help you sometimes get over those financial hurdles. They're not absolutely fantastic, but they can help.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in a bank for many years, and there was a scheme where you could, I think it was like $1,000 you could borrow, and it would help you maybe to get a washing machine or deposit for a car or something like that. Now, I think it still exists. But if someone in your audience wanted to know more, I'm more than happy to find out about that sort of thing, because I have a friend at the moment who's coming through a domestic violence situation. I'm trying to help her with her financial situation, because she wouldn't even know what bloody 10% of GST was. So she has no idea of financial literacy. So
yes, I am coming across that a lot. And it's something that we even talk about over ladies' lunches, women who've been through their maternity, sacrificed their career to raise their kids, and then their partner have left them in the same way that you got sick and you got a divorce. And then they are living in financial poverty for a number of years whilst they continue to be a single mum and raise their kids. And then they get to the end of childcare raising and they've, really got no savings. So it's a very, very common problem, and it's heartbreaking, and it's also challenging. And so, what is your advice to women in this situation?
Look, I know it's hard, but I have always had a positive outlook on everything. My financial situation, my own health, my well-being. I had to, because of my serious illness. If I didn't think about being positive, most of the time, we're humans, we're going to have down days and whatever it is. But as a general rule, I've always tried to be positive, and that's even goes about money, having that positive mindset and not what they call a poverty mentality. I think it helps to get you along the road. And, you've got age on your side as well. So if you can start to get ahead as you go along, then you've still got 20, maybe nearly 25 years. So that's heaps. That's a lot you can achieve in the next 25 years if you wanted to put your mind to it and put some things into place, have your plan, have a budget, salary sacrifice. There's things that you can do because of being in that sort of age group, and it's all about compounding. Figures compound over time, so that all helps. So yes, while it's not a nice time, I agree, and I know quite a few women now that are in that situation with DV, being involved with the police up here. It can be a very challenging time. So reach out to people that you can. Don't be frightened to talk about it. Money is something that you have to talk about. My TEDx talk just recently, I talk about, we've got to talk about things. That money may not buy you happiness, but it can buy you some choices. So just try and keep at it, and sure, you're going to have your bad days, but just keep plodding along. And, if you can't put $10 in that week, put $5 in or $2 or whatever. But over time, that will all add up, and you'll be surprised how much you've got in the end.
Yeah, it's interesting because what I tell myself is that this is just a phase. And like you said, you've got 20, 25 years. I tell myself, like, if I'm healthy and I keep working, the future can take care of itself, rather than have that mindset that I'm freaking out about what's going to happen when I'm 70. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, now life's changed. Since 911, life changed. And COVID has changed again. The world, life, society. So it's about every day. And, the term about, saving for a rainy day is probably not something that millennials and the younger generation sort of react to. It's not, they couldn't care less. But I put it more as planning for the future.
Mm-hmm.
So have that positive mindset that, yes, you do have a future, and plan for it. So get your goals in place, have an action plan. If you miss 1 week, putting some money into the bank, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So there's more important things. Your family are very important to you, but if you can have a little bit of financial stability, it certainly helps. It helps along the line with situations that can come up, and make you think otherwise.
Well, that's a good point. So what's the simplest form of saving you can do while raising a family?
Again, times have changed. When I was married back in the 70s, and people laugh at me when I say this, I was paying 14% on my mortgage interest.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think it's, some people paying 2.5, 1.89. So that's a lot of interest on my mortgage. Admittedly, it was much lower than it is now, but things are all relative. My first pay packet, I got $60. That was it. My husband wouldn't have got too much more. He was a fireman. No, he was a plumber. So tradies have always generally done fairly well with their wages, so he wasn't too bad. But every week I sat down, I worked out my money. I had a bill jar in this cupboard and a bill jar in this spot, and and again, it's cash, so it's different life. Now it's all digital, but you can still save things. There's apps and all sorts of things these days that can, calculators and all sorts of things that can help you do that sort of thing. So it's real to me. It's probably savings, having look for a high interest savings account. There's not a lot around. Long-term term deposits aren't paying too much, but it's probably the safest spot in the short term. In the long term, talking totally different things. You're talking about shares and property and that sort of thing. But in short term, best place probably is to have a high interest savings account. I've done some research. So look, there's places like finder.com and CanStar and those sorts of things. They can tell you where there are some good areas to put your money into for the moment.
Yeah.
But it's it's an ultra low interest environment at the moment. So, like I say, I was paying 40% interest on my mortgage, but I was getting 19% interest on any money that I saved. So it's not like that now. Even though you're paying low interest on your mortgage, you're not getting anything in the bank. So
yeah. What about offset mortgages?
Offset, yes. Offset, definitely. If you've got an offset mortgage, definitely. I have always had an offset mortgage when I had my properties, and they definitely are a good way to go. Certainly helps because you're taking that money off that lower amount every time, so that's good.
Yeah.
I also am one for salary sacrificing. If you can salary sacrifice, I wish I had done it 20 years earlier, I should say. It's surprising how much that extra amount of money will mount up by the time you get to retire. So I think it's, so they're probably
Did you grow up in quite a frugal household, would you say?
Oh, yes, very frugal. Yes, my mother never worked. She worked until she was 14. got married when she was 18. Never worked after that. I came along a couple of years later, and then my sister. So my mother never worked. She was a machinist when she worked, sew garments together. My father was a millwright. He was, back in the good old days when there were flour silos around and things like that, he physically made all the wooden chutes that sent the flour from the silos down into the different containers and stuff like that. So, and he was the breadwinner, and she ran the house, and she looked after us two girls. So I've always come from a frugal background. Yes, I must admit that. My mother always did the banking and knew everything about it. So that's helped, definitely. Always taught me good values about money and not to, waste it. Live within our means. If you haven't got the money to go and buy a dress, well, then you can't buy the dress. This pay now, this business thing. Look, back in the days, I was the lay-by queen. I could have 6 lay-bys going all at once. I loved it. I'd put a couple of dollars here, and that's the way I got things. Even when I was married, if I didn't have curtains or smaller things, I'd put things on the lay-by and I'd pay them off, and then I would have them, and then I knew they were mine. As opposed to now with this buy now, get now, pay later sort of thing. Well, there's a lot of traps and that sort of stuff. And interest rates, I think, with the money is high. So it's a different age. You really got to be very, what's the word? I don't know, switched on maybe. Just got to know your surroundings and your limitations. If you can't do things, find out, ask somebody, there's people around that can help you. And I consider myself a money mentor or a financial literacy educator or something like that. So I'm here to talk to people, women, just sort of think about things. I've had a lady here, I've gone to the bank with her. She had trouble getting a loan for a mortgage. So I said, look, I'll come to the bank with you and we'll see what we can do. And it's just little things like that. And I suppose it's confidence, having somebody else there that can talk to the people, because I've had 10 years in banking, so I kind of know how it works.
And what are all the things you look at when you're budgeting for the year? Just kind of give me some examples.
Well, your first thing is your insurances. So you've got your health insurance, you've got your car insurance, you've got your house and contents. So your insurances are your big one. If you've got a car, your registration, generally, groceries, how much do you think you're going to spend a year on groceries, your utilities, gas, electricity, those really main serious ones. And then if you're into all these, more non-discretionary things like, your streaming for your stands and your binge and all that sort of thing, and your gym memberships and all that sort of stuff. So I look at my must-haves first to have my life, and then what sort of comes next. Here's how I've always done it. So admittedly now I budget monthly, and that can change. You can have a monthly budget, you can have a weekly budget, fortnightly if you get paid fortnightly. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it, but you really should look at your budget regularly. Circumstances change. Like I say, you might be having a family, so things are going to change there. So look ahead and think, okay, so I'm down as wage or something, so something may have to go or cut down or cut back, or start taking lunches to work instead of buying them in the shops or something like that. So there's always little things. I know it sounds awful because people love their cups of coffee, and I'm a hot chocolate girl. I love my hot chocolate, but if you can't have too many of those, then maybe cut them back. So just little simple things that really, they all mount up. I read something the other day, coffee every day is so much money. Then you add that by the year, that's thousands of dollars. I know it sounds crazy, but that's it, when you think about it. That's what I say. I make it a bit of a game. I put all my figures together and think, oh, gee, yeah, well, maybe I'll just have a hot chocolate, tomorrow instead of today. I really can't, I just want to have it today. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? Because when you think of things like rates and insurance, then are you trying to pay them yearly, or are you comfortable paying them monthly, or does it matter to you?
Rates, I've always paid installments. So you get your 4 installments. I've always been one to spread out my expenses. I am thinking of pre-paying my health insurance because I could save a few $100s paying that in advance.
Mhm.
But I like I say, my rates, my water rates, I pay by installments. They give you four payment side. That's how I do. I just find it's easier. Sometimes if you pay in advance, it is cheaper. Sometimes if you pay by installments, it's more expensive. It's just so you've got to sit down and work it out. And there is something called smoothing bills. And if I may just look at my notes.
Yeah, sure.
Where are we? Here we go. So my sister does this. So there's such a thing as what they call bill smoothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a payment system that's offered by utility providers, say electricity, gas, water. You can pay money into it fortnightly or monthly instead of paying the whole bill in one go. So for people that are on tight budgets, you're not going to suffer from bill shock so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it stops you from having a debt. If you can't pay that bill on time, you're ahead generally as a rule. So it's really, that's the way I would really adopt my similar financial situation on a daily basis. Instead of squirreling away money for large bills, just do it gradually kind of thing as your situation allows you. But bill smoothing is quite interesting, and you need to get in contact with your provider, if not us, you feel like you do it. But I've always been okay to pay my bills on time.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I always say, if you don't ask, you don't get. If you're struggling for a particular month or something, for you pay electricity bill or your gas bill or something, ring them. Generally, as a rule, they're pretty good. At the moment, health insurance, I'm with HCF. I don't have any increases now till November. They've decided to April 1, I can wait sort of thing. So, and I have spoken to some people sometime back when COVID was around more than the national lockdown. And I said, look, I'm a bit short this week or whatever. And they said, look, that's fine. Just let us know. We'll put our account on hold until things are okay again. Look, it was nothing serious. I was just trying to test the waters. And don't be frightened to shop around. If you think you're paying too much, pick up the phone and ring them and talk to them. You'll be very surprised, very surprised.
That's a big thing, isn't it? Because as you get very busy and you're committed to lots of different things, you then leave those shopping arounds and you end up paying for stuff you're not using. And I found a few subscriptions recently coming out of different bank accounts that I have for things that I'm not using, and I didn't even know that they had signed me up for the ongoing monthly subscription. So all of a sudden I've got $15 a month coming out of my bank account for something that I don't want and I never remember clicking a button for. So it is even important just to go through your bank account and check what money's leaving and why it's leaving and where it's come from, isn't it?
Absolutely. You got to check that bank statement. I'm terrible. I even, I do my grocery shopping and I walk outside the shop and I look at my bill and I think, oh, yeah, yes, because, accidents happen. There's sometimes, instead of paying $4 for something, I've paid $8. Well, hang on, I'll have that $4 back. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I check everything. I could intimately tell you what my statements got in it and everything. I used to know I could even tell you my credit card numbers off straight away. You just stay on for 5 minutes and just have a look at your bank statement or your superannuation fund statement and just see what's in there and how many. You might have 4 superannuation funds. Well, boy, you've got a problem because you're paying too much in fees. You need to do something about it. So there's ways that you can be frugal with your money if you just take time to sit down and think about it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a blank piece of paper and writing down all the different places that you think you spend money, and then you can start to put it together in a more formal way. Like we try to do a forecast each year to know what are our monthly outgoings and big expenses throughout the years, and then to see what our potential income is, to then know what our overall annual surplus or deficit might be. So that's just even mapping your outgoing costs that you foresee for the coming year on a month-by-month basis, and then checking as to, will we have enough for a holiday? Can we renovate the house this year? All of those sort of things. So that basic thing, like, I don't mind, because I'm used to budgeting for clients, so I know how it works. But the more tedious stuff is going through my receipts. But I last year I made a big commitment to myself to have a receipt scanning app on my phone, which is tracked in my bank account. So I spend the money, the receipt's scanned in, and then it's all married up in QuickBooks. And that was, paying that $20 a month subscription for QuickBooks actually saved me so much anxiety at the end of the year when I had all that stuff in a shoebox to go through,
Exactly. Yeah, look, I think there's, I am still very old school, I must admit. So, but and I read things and I listen to things and research stuff. But there's apps now that round down things from your shopping. So, I might save $2 and that goes to a balance, and over time there could be a few $100s there by the end of the year. Well, that could go towards a holiday, or go towards a month of eating out or something that you might want, a new lounge suite or something. So there are ways and means out there, particularly now, more than what back in my day. I had nothing. It was cash and went to the bank and that was it. So you had to be mindful and very frugal and work things out, labour intensively, because that's how you did it. But I always just sat down with a piece of paper. Even now, I put some time in my diary. It's my GSD day, excuse the expression, but it's called Get Shit Done. And even when I was PAing for my bosses, there was time in their diary for a GSD, and that's what they read, or they action things, or it was when things had to get done. And I put that in my diary, and and today it's, pay this bill, pay that bill, check superannuation fund, and whatever. And might only be 15 minutes. It depends what you're doing. But and I've always found that's really stood me in good stead for just getting things done and out of the way, and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I tried to make a theme day, so either Money Monday or Finance Friday or Wealth Wednesday. If you give it a theme and know that you've got an hour or two, often those tasks don't take up as much time as you think they're going to, right?
No, they don't. They really don't, because, and then it's 15 minutes. You'll get back, and that's done. It's dusted. You get on to the next thing and not have to worry about it. So it's all about it's just little things like that. I really think can help you out.
So for women who aspire to have $1 million when they retire, what's your top tips then?
Look. Salary sacrificing, number one. I don't think enough women know about it. There's a difference between salary. If people say to you, salary packaging. Salary packaging is not salary sacrificing. Salary sacrificing is putting that little bit of extra money away pre-tax. So it's in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, it will give you a little bit more money in your take-home pay, because you're paying less tax, because your balance that you're getting charged tax on is less. So I'm a real believer of salary sacrificing. I think it's fantastic. I really honestly do. As far as superannuation environment goes, and superannuation is very, very complex. It's a changing beast. It changes all the time. So you've really got to be aware of what you can do in super. I really think having a good goal or goals that are achievable. No point writing down, $1 million if that's not what you want to do. If you want to have a holiday for 6 months across the world, then that's what you plan towards. That was my goal. I wanted to have enough money in my superannuation account when I retired, because I'm single, that I wouldn't have to worry about my next twilight years, so to speak. And I'm trying to, I was talking to my niece just recently, and she said about a goal. I said, look, it doesn't have to be $1 million. It could be you save $10,000 a month, or you save 50,000, a year or something, but just work towards something that's within your realm of your financial situation and put a plan in action. That includes, your budget, how you're going to do it, just keeping on top of little things. And over time, time is your friend. Things will happen because you've got the time. Someone who at my age now, who is maybe renting, is not going to have a lovely time as they get into their 70s and 80s, because the pension is, I think the pension for a single person, I'm not exactly, I think it's about $965 a quarter now. A fortnight. Now, if you're paying for $500 a week in rent, that's not a lot of money left. You've got bills to pay and all sorts of things. So, and I think at the moment it's about 90% of women who do not retire with enough money in their superannuation account, from figures I read last week from a study taken in 2015. And the amount of women homelessness is about 405,000 women from the age of 45 to 55. I think that's a lot of women that aren't going to have enough money in the superannuation and retire. And look, I'm always thinking ahead. I don't know why, but I do. But who knows? In 30 years' time, there may not be a government pension. So, because the amount of debt that the country has at the moment is massive. It's huge. And it's the younger generation and the likes of people that are still taxpayers that will eventually pay that off. But that's going to take time. So if you've got nothing behind you and you're relying on the age pension, it's a lot to think about. And if, with mental health being big issues in this world that we living today and that sort of thing, if you can alleviate half of that, then your life will be a little bit more happier. I don't know what, honestly, and I've got a really good frame of mind and positive mindset. I don't know how I would do it if I was doing that sort of thing. I really don't know how I'd cope.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? And that's why I think it's, like you say, it's something that we should be more open talking about, which is why I want to share this kind of information with people as well, because, I recognize that, finances are a little bit like sex and mental health and emotional health. We get awkward and uncomfortable when it's time to discuss them. But if we can be open about emotional health, open about mental health, open about financial health, then our well-being is better supported. And, it is fundamental. And as you say, you only have to have a major setback in your life, like a serious illness like you had, or loss of your partner or whatever, and everything can spiral down quite quickly. And then you're floundering, and it's like, well, okay, now what positive proactive steps can I take to come back from that? And to, to look to some role models and to some people who've done it for themselves, or who, like I've said as well, like it can be just a phase, and a lot can change quite quickly in a short space of time. So in 5 years' time, I'm very sure my financial position will be very different to it has been over the last 5 years, but that's because I'm proactively thinking about it. Okay, now I might not be taking positive actions all the time, but I am consciously aware of it,
Yep, exactly. That's what it's about, being aware of your own financial well-being. To be a financial planner with the bank, I dropped $20,000 in my pay from being a PA, EA to a financial advisor. But I sat down and it's something I really wanted to do. So I realized, I had to change my budget changed again. So you just got to sit down and work out what it is you want and have some things in place, plan for the future. Don't worry about that rainy day, because that's not the rhetoric these days. It's planning for the future, I think. Because there is a future out there for everybody. It's there. Just got to make things a little bit simpler for yourself, because look, I love my life. I read something the other day on Facebook about my generation, and I didn't have the opportunities that the young ones have today. When I left school, you either got married or you went to uni. That was it. There was no other, or you got a job. I chose to get a job, and 12 months later I was married. So I didn't want to go to university, didn't know what I wanted to do. But that was it. That was really my choices. In the 70s, mid-70s, 74, I started my first job. That was it. Now, gosh, you can go to university, you can delay it, you can have a gap year, you can go overseas, you can travel, you can whatever. You know, women are having children before they get married and all sorts of things. So life is very different now. So it's about just being aware, having that good positive mindset, being able to go with the. I'm a go with the flow girl. I go with the flow. Just having some things in place that help and take those little stresses off that that you don't have to worry about, because you just don't know what's going to happen around the corner. Geez, I would have never thought I was going to be walking around wearing a mask. Let me tell you.
No.
Never. In my wildest dreams, never.
No.
And my mother, who's 89 next month. No, she's seen come through the war and the depression and really hard times.
Mm.
I'm a baby boomer, so I think we've had wonderful lives. But then, I've worked hard for it. Let me tell you, I worked really hard for my money. I was a massage therapist, so I'd work 6 nights a week being a massage therapist. I go to work every day and do my day job, and the only night I had off was Saturday night. So, and I did that massage for 22 years, and I worked doing both jobs for 10 years. So I've worked really hard and put a lot of sacrifices in place to plan my life so that I could get to this point. And I've gone through hardships through losing my father and my brother-in-law when I was many years ago. So but you just got to have little things in place. It all helps. It takes, I bet you a lot of people haven't sat down and worked out how much they're worth. You sat down and worked out how much add up all your assets and then your liabilities. So you add up, your house and your car and that sort of thing, your personal assets, what you've got. And then take away liabilities, which may be any credit card debt you've got, or you might have a car loan. And that's just basic stuff. And you've got X amount of dollars, and okay, well then I'm worth, whatever, 500,000 or something. It's very interesting to do something like that.
Yeah, I quite like that little. I do like doing that, because then you think, okay, it's not so bad because I've got options, and that's the thing. It's like, what are my options? So
Exactly.
Thank you so much for chatting with me. It's been really interesting, and it's good to kind of hear your point of view, because as you change as well, as you know as well, and you've said, things changing all the time, and there's always new things and new apps. And I don't even know what Afterpay is, and I'm 45. I've not used it. Half of the things that are available to us these days, I don't even use. And then it becomes, how do we then educate our kids and our teenagers to make good decisions? What financial literacy are they getting with all of the new modern digital banking things? And, just really stuff like that. It's so important. And I think we often don't give it enough time to really embed it.
No, we don't. I'm trying to get a little bit of a change into the curriculum in schools about financial literacy. I'm not far from Redcliffe High School, and I know someone who knows the principal. So I'm trying to get in there later in the year to maybe talk to them about introducing some basic financial literacy into the school curriculum for maybe years 9, 10, 11 perhaps, because they just don't know. It's all about digital things and all that sort of stuff, and they just don't know. Back in 2019, before I came to Queensland, I was talking to first year grad dips in admin students at RMIT, Melbourne University. And they were been giving a topic called accounts payable. And so I said to them, okay, well, what's, just in your words, what is accounts payable? And not one of them, and there was 40 in the class, not one of them could tell me what accounts payable was. Now that to me is scary. They couldn't even say, debits or credits or ins and outs, or they had absolutely no idea what it was. And that's just basic stuff.
Yeah, I did basic bookkeeping in I think it was year 9. We had bookkeeping at school.
Yep.
And, that was kind of like my first, and I didn't love it, but I do, it has kind of given me that basic understanding, which I've carried through my life. So, there is that, but, I don't know if there's any subjects like that at school now.
No, and that's what I'm trying to get into up here. I'm trying to, do that. It's just basic stuff. That's what my book is about. It's just basic things that people may not know.
Yeah.
You talk to people and they say, oh, everything's okay when I die, it'll go to my wife. Well, if you don't have a will, that's not going to happen. That's not necessarily the way. My super will go to, well, no, if you don't have a binding nomination from your superannuation company, your spouse may not get it because superannuation does not go into your estate. It's a separate thing. So you have to have a binding nomination from your superannuation company to say who you want your superannuation to go to. So, and then, do you know your credit score? Perfect example. If you can't get a loan from the bank, generally it may be because of your credit score. Now, do you know your credit score? Do you have 5 superannuation funds? Well, if you do, you can roll them all over into one, and you're going to pay 1 fee instead of 5 fees.
Yeah.
There's a huge saving straight away just there.
Yeah.
So it's just little things, and I talk. It's my journey, how I got to where I am now. I talk about the ins and outs. I talk about setting yourself up for success. Super. I talk a little bit more about super. There's some strategies in super that you can do that can help. But again, that's really getting into real more complex things, and that's probably something you should talk to with a person who does do a financial advice, or your bank or your employer. So
yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you for joining me today. I'll share the links to your book and your social media pages in the notes below, and then people can reach out to you and get some Helen wisdom, as we can call it.
Thank you. Yes, my pearls of wisdom. And let me tell you, I got lots of them. My strand of pearls is pretty long. So
well, hopefully we can see each other sometime this year for a bit more dancing, because you're quite a groover. I do remember us having a lovely dance at our book launch in Melbourne, but it's been a long time between drinks, let's say.
It has been a long time between drinks, yes.
I'm hoping to come down south in the June, July school holidays, so I'll hopefully see you then.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Take care.
Thanks for asking me. Thanks for the opportunity, and I hope I've helped somebody. That's what I'm about, helping people.
I'm sure it will. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Thanks again. Bye.